Hello, this is 3.1c. Find the third side of a triangle. So in this lesson, we're going to dive right into some examples. This one builds right off of the last lesson we did. So just recall that if you want a triangle to actually work, if you want three numbers to work together to create a triangle, short side plus middle side has to be bigger than long side. Okay. So this time we're given two sides of a triangle, and it's our job to figure out what the third side could be. So could it be 1? Would 1 work? Well, if you just check that in your head, 1 plus 14 is only 15, and that's not bigger than 18. So that's not going to work. 2, also not going to work because that's only going to add to 16. Okay. But we could also have some big numbers too. We could maybe have like 20. I don't know. So I'm going to give you a strategy to use here, and that is to first assume that x is small. Assume that it's the smallest side. And then once you're done with that, go ahead and assume that x is the biggest side. Because we don't know. Nothing tells us. So we kind of need to check both of them. Okay. So first thing, we're going to assume that x is small. So I'm going to label it as the small side, meaning 14 is the medium side and 18 is the longest side. Okay. So we're just going to do what we did before, where we say small plus medium has to be bigger than large. And I just went ahead and plugged those numbers in. So instead of the small side, I used x. Instead of the medium side, I used 14. And then the longest side is 18. Okay, then we're going to solve that just like we would with an equation. Get x by itself by subtracting 14 from both sides. And that will tell us that x has to be bigger than 4. Okay, so stop and think about that for a second. If we put 4 here, so if we ignored x and we put a 4 there, we would have 4 plus 14 is bigger than 18. And that actually wouldn't work, right? Because 18 isn't bigger than 18. But anything bigger than 4 would work. So like a 5, it would work. 5 plus 14 is 19, and 19 is bigger than 18. So we are dealing with something that is a triangle. Okay, so that one's done. But now we might have some big numbers that also work. So now we're going to assume that x is the largest side, so the longest side. Okay, that would tell us that 14 is the smallest and 18 is the medium. Okay, we're going to pretend that x is bigger than 18 in this case. Okay, we're going to follow the same process though. So we're going to say small plus medium, so 14 plus 18 is bigger than x. Okay, 14 plus 18, we can just add those together. That's going to give us, what, 32 is bigger than x. Now, I don't really like reading it like that. That's kind of confusing to me. So what I always do on these ones is I flip-flop the x and the 32, but then I also flip-flop the inequality sign. So alligator should be eating the 32. So when I flip-flop it, I got to make sure that the alligator is still eating the 32. Okay, so those are our possibilities. Basically, x can be anywhere bigger than 4, but less than 32. That's a lot of different possibilities. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up until 31 would work. Okay, if you wanted to think about this on like a number line to help this make a little bit more sense, we have 4 here and we have 32 here. We would use open dots. I don't know how much you guys remember or know about inequalities, but not touching 4, not touching 32, but anything in between would work. Okay, and sometimes I like to put a 0 in there too, just so we know kind of where we stand. So any of those answers would work in this scenario. Okay, one more example here. This one is a little bit more in words, maybe a little bit harder to think about, maybe not. But it says this: find the range of side lengths for the third side of a triangle if you know two of the sides are 8 and 15. So what I would do here is I would just list them as we don't know what one side is. We can pretend it's small, and then we have 8 and 15. Okay, so again, small, medium, and large. And then do what I said on the last example, which is after you pretend that x is small, pretend or assume that x is the biggest one. So do 8, 15, and x. So small, medium, and large. Okay, and then just solve it two ways. So start by doing x plus 8 has to be bigger than 15. Subtract 8 from both sides. So x has to be greater than 7. Okay, or over here, 8 plus 15 is bigger than x. 8 and 15 is what? 23 is bigger than x. And then again, I don't really like looking at it like that. I like to flip-flop them around so the x is first. And then I'll flip-flop the inequality. Okay, so our answers, anything that's bigger than 7 would work so long as it remains smaller than 23. Okay, otherwise it doesn't fit our rules for being a triangle. All right, and then another example here. This one's a little trickier. Something like this probably will come up on a test, just more of a challenge problem, but definitely not something that you couldn't handle. So this is going to take a little bit more time to go through, but I think we can handle it. So it says find the values of x that would make this triangle possible. So same strategy we've been using. Start by assuming that our unknown side is small. So we would have small, medium, and large. So we would start by saying 4x plus 1 plus 9 is bigger than 12. Okay. Once you have that set up, now assume that our unknown side is the longest side. So there's our longest, there's our medium, and that's not right. That's our shortest, and that's our medium. Yes, yes. Okay. So our other one then would be 9, short side, plus 12 would have to be greater than 4x plus 1. Okay. Definitely pause the video here if you need time to catch up. I'm going to go through the algebra pretty quickly here, but make sure you pause so that you're keeping up. So first thing I would do is combine some like terms. I have a 1 and a 9 that combines to make 10. So 4x plus 10 is greater than 12. Subtract 10 from both sides. 4x is greater than 2. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. Don't be afraid of that. It's just a fraction. X is greater than a half. 2/4 is the same as a half. And that one's done. Now over to the second one here, 9 plus 12. We can combine those. That's 21. Now I would probably subtract 1 from both sides. Work on getting that x by itself. So 20 is greater than 4x. Divide by 4. And we have 5 is greater than x. And again, I don't like looking at it that way, so I would flip-flop and then flip-flop the signs. Okay, so two answers. Well, lots of answers, but x has to be greater than 1/2, but remain under 5 in order for this to work out. All right, so in summary on this one, keep using short plus middle is greater than long. And then those two things that I kind of kept saying, pretend the missing side is short and solve, and then pretend the missing side is long and solve. And if you do that without making any algebra errors, you'll be just fine.